Froch has repeatedly downplayed Dre's victory over him and has made derogatory comments. Is that just him being bitter all these years from the fight?
Has to be. He had opportunity to make it right. Well, it's always about the way he fought. People not interested in watching him fight, and it's a style that's not endearing to the public, and whoopty-whoopty-boo and all this kind of stuff, Yeah. But if he wants to be real about it, he can come to the United States and walk around. I guarantee you, not many people in the fight people know who he is. But if Dre go to the UK, I guarantee you, no matter what city he go in, they don't know who he is. So his own fans will let him know his line of popularity. If he came to the U.S., nobody would know who Carl Froch was.
When Dre announced his retirement, Carl Froch was like one of the first people to jump out and say, he's going to come out for one more big fight and whatnot, and which kind of struck me as odd, considering that Carl Froch retired. And he knows what it's like to, hang up the gloves for good and call it a career. So I don't know why he would make those kinds of statements about Dre and not feel the same way about himself.
Well, you know what the thing is it's just like in the fight. He's throwing all these things in Andre's direction, but nothing's landing. So he has to come with something else to convince himself, why he lost the fight, and that nobody would want, to see Dre fight. But as I recall, he came over here and fought Jermaine at the Foxwoods, if I'm not mistaken, and nobody knew who Carl Froch was, and he was a champion at the time, I believe, when he fought Jermaine. That was when Jermaine was moved up to 168. Is that correct?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and the majority of his career was fought in his hometown, Nottingham, at a stadium where he would put 7,000 to 8,000 people in there. He never got a big stadium fight until he fought the rematch with Kessler. Even when he fought Boutte, it was in his hometown. So I think he did pretty good there, but it was Boutte who brought the numbers. When he fought Pascal, I think he did pretty good, but that was Pascal who brought the numbers. You see, but then you have the best fans, some of the best fans in the world, but don't elevate yourself to this huge, as a huge draw because you weren't. You fought Kessler, but Kessler was responsible for you to get into the O2. George Groves promoted both of their fights himself. Okay, the first fight, George Groves downed him mentally, downed him psychologically, talked so much trash. He had half of Britain waiting on him to get knocked out by Froch, and he had the other half waiting on him to knock Froch out. So after the controversial ending, which was a blessing to both of them, because, you have to give Groves the fight in the first few rounds, and he was winning the fight before the stoppage came in the first fight. And in fairness to Froch, I thought it was a fair stoppage. I felt that if he'd hit Groves a couple of more times, that, he could have done damage. And Groves, he was hurt. But it didn't deter Groves. Froch did not even want to rematch Groves, if you remember. He was forced into that rematch. Eddie Hearn had to force him into that rematch.
Wow.
Because it was going to be so much money at stake. And Groves was constantly talking. It was Groves who promoted the second fight, who called him, why you ducking out the second fight? Froch had to go get a sports psychologist. He was really shook up behind Groves' mouth.
Right. I remember.
He didn't want to. He's supposed to be the talker. He's supposed to be the one who could talk a good game, but Groves just had him down to just bits. And he didn't want to fight Groves anymore. I believe he was fearful of Groves based on that knockdown and based on how easy it was for Groves to hit him. See, but I give credit where credit is due. Groves was winning the second fight. I was there, sitting at ringside watching the fight. He was winning the second fight. But I give Froch credit. I could tell that Froch had a plan, and him and McCracken, they had a plan, and he stuck to the plan. And the plan was, I believe he used his lead hand more to offset Groves' aggression, you know, and he used his legs a little bit more intelligently. He didn't want to go in there and be Mr. Bad Froch, I can walk through you. He was real cautious.
Right.
And then Groves made the same mistake in the second fight he made again in the first fight, going up against the ropes and squaring up. That was the mistake he made the first fight. He made it again in the second fight. Okay? And Froch has a way, if you go against the ropes, he has a way of throwing the first punch and bowl into you with the second. But he was stationary square, and he let Froch take a step before he punched, and so that was all she wrote. So in all fairness, he had a plan. He stuck to the plan, even though I felt he was behind on points. He stuck to the plan, and it was a good plan, and it worked for him.
You know, so
it worked for him.
But why does Froch constantly downplay Dre's style? He every time he talks about Andre Ward, he'll in one breath he'll say, I've got nothing against Ward, but then he'll say his style is boring. Is that kind of like a built-in excuse for him to just kind of excuse away the reason why he lost to him?
It's not only an excuse, it's this ability that he has to BS himself. See, that gave him the excuse not to want to fight a rematch. It was his call. That gave him the excuse not to want to fight a rematch. It also pacified him into thinking that I've done this over here on the left with Boutte and, you know, in the Groves fights. I don't need you. But what he realized, we didn't need him. But he should have took the second fight. He rematched everybody else. See? He said he wanted us to come to England. Well, make an offer. Nobody ever made an offer. The bottom line is that he was helpless in that fight, and he knew it. He knew it was nothing that he could do, nothing he could come up with that was going to make him any better. And then when he found out that we went into the fight with a broken right hand, we broke the hand 7 days before the fight, that really messed him up. Because he's like, all this damage took place, and he's got a broken right hand. Yes, sir. As great as you talk, as great as you walk, you got beaten with one hand.
Wow.
You see, so that was a hard thing for him to live. That was a hard thing for him to deal with. And it's going to be hard. It's right now, you see the results of that fight. He can't even live with it. He can't even live with it. Look at all the great fighters when their career is down and they retire and everything, no matter what type of friction they had with the opponent. They respect each other for their accomplishments. They respect each other for their day under the sun because they understand how brutal the sport is. They understand how demanding the sport is. So you have to respect the next man that you fought, particularly if you fought him in a at a time that was very significant. But he doesn't want to do that. And what makes him look bad is all the talk he talked leading up to the fight. You know, I'm going to walk through your feather punches. I'm going to knock you out. You're not in my class. All this talk to be shoved back in your face like that easily. And come on, everybody knows the two judges who had it close was that nobody understand what they were looking at. It goes down as one of the greatest performances. That's how it's looked at. Even when you look at it from the Brits' point of view, Sky Sports, the Telegraph, or any reporter from Britain, they understood, exactly the beating that he took. They understood. They saw it, and to their credit, they've never discredited Andre for that fight.
Well, that's
from the announcers to anybody.
Well, that's the irony to me, Virg, is that he talks about, he's got a boring style, but I thought that fight, Dre's fight with Froch, I actually thought that was an exciting, entertaining fight.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm like, this man, like, you were in the ring with him for one of his exciting fights, and you're trying to claim he's got a boring style. Like, that doesn't make any. That's why I truly feel like that's just bitterness from the loss.
It's extreme bitterness. And I mean, well, how did you want him to fight? How did you want him to fight? Did you want him to just stand there and fight like you fight? He made the comment either he was too close or too far away. So is that a strike on his style, or is it a strike on your inability to make the adjustments? Since you figured it out in your mind, he's too close or too far away, certainly you could have figured it out in the ring. What that fight did was expose to him his limitations that he either never accepted that he had or never thought that he had. Mm-hmm. And if you listen to his comments after the fight, he's ready to go back to the drawing board. He was literally bewildered. It's tough to come off being beat up and being bewildered at the same time. And I don't think it's a feeling that he wanted to go through anymore. He'll compliment Kessler as a man's man. He'll stand and fight like a man. Okay, so when we beat up Kessler, what was the situation then? We beat him, dominated him. He came back the next fight, took your belt from you.
Right.
You see?
Mm-hmm.
But in a toe-to-toe fight. But
Virg, that just is proof positive of his bitterness. I mean, I can go back and watch the fight between them two, and as I'm watching it, it's Carl Froch that was, fighting off his back foot, retreating. You know what I mean? Mm-hmm. It was Dre that was bringing the fight to him. So it just bewilders me that he has totally rewritten his own history and is trying to explain away that loss by saying, I mean, not only the loss, but like you said, just not even having a rematch with him by trying to use this excuse that, his style is boring, therefore, I don't want to fight him again. Like, that to me is just, again, proof positive of the bitterness that someone can have from a loss, which is really shocking because, like you said earlier, most times when two guys get in the ring, even if they had bad blood going into the fight, usually afterwards, they have a lot of respect for each other.
Exactly. If I had went to Carl Froch when he was fighting and said, look, I'm able to give you 50% of Andre Ward's ability. Take it or leave it. He'd take the 50%.
Right.
I don't care what he says. He might come back next week and say something about it. He would take it. If I offered him 25% Andre Ward's IQ and 25% of Andre Ward's speed reaction, he'd take it. See? He'd take it. But what happened was he got himself in a situation where he just ran his mouth too much. He ran his mouth too much. And going into the fight, he was, even before he knew what Dre was about, he was belittling, Andre. And I can remember where the British announcers and, all the people that were there from Britain were, saying how cool and calm he was. And we seemed a little edgy. So maybe he believed that. I don't know. He said he had a great camp. He reiterated that several times, how great his camp was. And that, he was going back home with the belt. His family said it. His mom said it. His stepdad said it. Everybody said it's his night. Eddie Hearn said it. Eddie Hearn just recently said, I really thought he could win that fight. I really thought that he would rough Ward up.
Mm-hmm.
But I told him at the roundtable meeting, when they asked me what could he expect in the fight, any surprises, and I said the biggest surprise that he's going to find out real early is that Andre Ward is way stronger than he is. And they scoffed at it.
Mm.
I said, you're going to find that out early. They just scoffed at it. He couldn't see that. See, and the reason why is because the type of styles he's able to fight. If you look at the Abraham fight, it wasn't about physical strength, although if the referee, who definitely was on Abraham's side, would have allowed us to fight Abraham, we'd have stopped him. See? But every time we got inside, Abraham grabbed with everything he had.
Mm-hmm.
When we got on the inside of Froch, I remember Antonio Tarver at the fighters meeting when I told him, we going inside. He looked at us, are you sure you want to do that? Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
I said, he'll punch on the inside, but he's not effective. But the one mistake he does make after he punches, his head is right there. Mm-hmm. So we bullied, buffaloed him, fought half the fight with hands so painful. When you look at when you took the wrap off his right hand, it was double the size. We broke it in 2 places 7 days out on Dafier Smith's big old hard head. I hope he listened to it. And I remember when we got it MRI'd, I told the doctor, don't tell him, tell me. And he said, well, it's broken here and it's broken there. Mm-hmm. And my question to him was, can we go on with this fight effectively? He said, well, yeah, if it's wrapped up, it's going to cause him pain, but he could get through it if it's really secure. Mm-hmm. So we brought Stitch in 5 days early.
Wow.
And I literally gave him another sparring session. Mm. The fight was on a Saturday. I gave him a sparring session Monday, just to test it out. So psychologically, he would know where he was at. And he said, Virgil, I'm going to get through the fight. It's not going to bother me at all. But Andre didn't know it was broken because I didn't tell him. I told him it was a level A sprain, and that the more he got the swelling out, the less pain he was going to feel. So, day in and day out, the days that came and went, was spent icing and soaking and massage. We were able to get the inflammation down. So he did have less pain, but you have to expect, if he lands a punch on the head or something like that, that it's going to flare up, which it did in the 7th round. Mm-hmm. Wow. So people in that fight would say it looked like he was getting tired. No, when he came back and told me in the 7th round that he had hit Froch in the head somewhere and the pain was really excruciating, I told him just pot shot him the rest of the way. Right after, you force him into mistakes. When he make a mistake, make him pay with a clear, concise blow. You could put two together, but just keep pot shotting him in a way that makes him look helpless. So he effectively was able to do that. Mm-hmm. So if you look at it, he changed up after the 7th by walking Froch around the ring and running him into traps.
Right.
That's what happened. Mm-hmm. But it's disappointing. But he doesn't realize his family is the one that really put it in perspective for me. So out of respect for his family, I didn't go in on him like I could have. Mm-hmm. But his brother Lee, his older brother Lee, personally told me in my face, not on the phone, not in my face, that they never wanted to see that fight happen again, that they told Froch not to take the fight. He said his mom definitely never wanted to see it again, didn't want to go through it again. Psychologically, it did a lot of damage to his family to see him get handled like that, you see. So why he can't just compliment a person and leave it at that, I have no idea. But that's who he is. But the fact is that you're going to be tormented the rest of your life. Because it would have been better even if you'd have came back and took the rematch. And yes, you would have lost worse. It would have been real bad because of all the talk that he did. And if our hands were healthy, you would have really found out what was going on, because his style was tailor-made for anything we wanted to do. Mm-hmm. He has to live with that. He'd have been better off coming back and taking the rematch and giving it his all. He could have lived with that. But see, he can't live with this. That's why it torments him. So when he has an opportunity to get some of that torment off of him that weighs on him so heavily, if it's weighing on him 500 pounds of pressure, you put a microphone in his face, he's able to get about 200 pounds of it off temporarily. But when he's in a room all by himself and thinking about his career, that pressure comes back. Mm-hmm. And it's always going to come back. Mm. It's always going to come back. He would be better off trying to get somebody to put $15, $10 million on the table and take the fight. Mm-hmm. Mm. He would be better off.
Wow. Do you think that he might still? I know he made a comment about Dre. He might come back for one more fight. Do you think that he would potentially actually come back for one more fight if it was presented?
Well, let's look at it like this: since he elevates himself to this star status, mm-hmm. And since he says, that Andre is not this, that, and the other, but I haven't seen anybody put any money on the table like they do with Floyd, even De La Hoya to this day, and put some money on the table where it's going to be some money made for him to come out of retirement and box. Mm-hmm. I haven't seen that. And the cold part about it, his own countrymen, the greatest fans to me in the world, along with the great Hispanic fans, they don't really dog him, but his audacity in the way he handled the Joe Calzaghe situation, mm-hmm. elevating himself above Calzaghe. Mm-hmm. That was left a bitter taste in a lot of the Brits' mouth. Mm-hmm. But they still supported him, you see. But you don't put your mouth on greatness. Mm-hmm. You don't insult greatness to try to get it to fight you. They don't have to fight you. Mm-hmm. Calzaghe doesn't have to fight you, But if you were everything you said you were, you'd have had the money behind you, and Calzaghe probably would have fought you.
Right.
You see, if you were who you say you were, and it would have been nothing to put $10, $15 million on the table for Calzaghe. I guarantee you, he'd have called Pop and said, "Pop, we got to run it one more time. There's too much money on the table."
Right.
And Enzo would have said, "Son, I think you're right." So that's a testament to who he thinks he is, and he's not. We're fine with who we are. We understand the impact we had on the boxing industry, not the fighters, because your peers then always let you know where you stand. Mm-hmm. So not the critics, not the media, not the haters, your peers will always let you know where you stand. And when you ask the great fighters and when you ask their peers, they'll get it right.
Have you ever run into him at all since?
I think I've seen Carl a couple of times. Look, I like Froch. He, as I said earlier in the Super 6, you got to admire a man got a cute wife like that, because he seems so darky. You wonder what kind of game he put down to mesmerize Rachel there. Mm-hmm. But credit to her, I'm sure she saw a quality in him I was really in admiration of their relationship, mm-hmm. and I thought that Showtime did a great job interjecting her into the Super Six, and that's another thing he needs to realize. If it wasn't for Rachel and her personality in the Super Six, he would have been a non-entity.
Wow.
You know, she shored him up. You know, she made him relevant. You know what I'm saying? It was her. You know, whether she's behind officials cursing, "Come on, Kyle! Come on, Kyle!" You know, or the interviews that she had, she made Carl Froch stand out, like any good woman should do with her guy. You know, so I found it to be very intriguing. I found it to be interesting. But, you know, you got to give credit where credit is due. He was able to get him a beautiful woman. He has a beautiful family, you know, and that's a fact. But I'm talking about him as an individual. As an individual, you know, he needs to regroup, and he needs to look at things for what they really are. I just saw, you know, a good job that Ring Magazine happens to do is The Best I Fought. And look at the credit that they give to the guys. But I have seen some bitter, maybe one or two bitter fighters that stand out. And actually the only bitter one I can say right now was Carl Froch. The best I faced, I think he did it. Of course, he gave Kessler. I think he said Kessler was the best he ever fought. See? So that was, you know, you would have to explain that to me. 2 Euro styles that couldn't get out the way of each other. Now, we didn't need him to say us. I mean, that's no big thing. We already know that we were the best you ever fought. Well, maybe we weren't. Maybe there's some other guys who were just as good, but didn't effectively handle you like we did. You know, because, I mean, if you look at the fights with Pascal and everything, I mean, man, he's winning these fights, but, boy, he's getting smashed. And this is not a put down. Maybe he enjoys those type of fights. But it doesn't, you know, a real man, you know, stand up and have a tear up. Really? Stand up and have a tear up. We're in a ring. We can't go anywhere. We have to engage. If I had your face all bruised up and puffed up like that, it's obvious I was there. It's just that you just looked up and I was gone.
I know you haven't really had like a run-in with him or something like that, but like, what if you guys had a run-in? Like, would you say something to him, or would you just kind of ignore him and just keep it moving?
No, I keep it cordial like I always do. Because I don't have anything in me that would cause me to act out of character. Right. Basically, right now, all I'm doing is addressing some of the bitterness he has, and I'm trying to encourage him to come out of that. Otherwise, he's going to be tormented the rest of his life. But
would you feel an urge to, like, if you saw him, like, let's say at a fight or something, if you guys were, if he was coming down the hall one way and you were coming down the hall the other, and you guys locked eyes or whatever, would you feel the need to say, Carl, man, like, what's up with all this bitterness? Like, would you say anything to him, or would you just be like, man, I ain't, whatever, and just keep it?
I really can't say, Ben. I've seen him on some occasions, always cordial. He's cordial. Yeah. I mean, it's a little different when you face to face. I mean, he could say what he wants to say when he's away and it's a mic in his face and he's across the water. But when you face to face with the situation, whether it be your opponent, whether it be a team part, one of your opponent's teammate or team, you have to carry yourself accordingly because you really don't have anything to justify you going any other way. You really don't have anything to justify that. So I would think that being cordial would be in order. And of course I would never confront him on it because it doesn't bother me that way. Right. It doesn't bother me. I mean, we won. We know you didn't want another fight. So it's sort of amusing. what I'm alluding to is both of you guys are retired. Look what Dre sent him when he retired. Very respectful.
Mm-hmm.
Gave him his props.
Yeah.
Not said one thing bitter.
Yeah.
See, because he didn't have to. But then as soon as we retired, look how he responds. And this last interview he did, it was sad because it was all over his face. It was all in his tones of voices with that mic and camera on him.
Mm-hmm.
I think he called one of the guys who asked him a question, a butt licker and all this kind of stuff. I mean, that's taking it real far, particularly if you don't know who you're talking to.
Right.
That showed it right there. But what he doesn't understand is when Lee comes up to me and tells me all the things that's going on behind the scenes that he would never thought I would know, I mean, really, there's nothing else to be said. I mean, if I wanted to take consolation in that, I could have a long time ago.
Mm-hmm.
But everything's been put out to me the way it really is and how his own family feels about that. So I doubt if he could have even got the fight anyway. His family probably would have stopped him. Mm. They just wouldn't want to go through that again. And then the possibility of it being worse. Like his brother said, I've never seen my brother just get beat up like that.
Mm.
That was something new to them. And, they supported him. He had great support, so rightfully so. They expected to see him win. They were used to seeing him winning.
Mm-hmm.
But they never saw him in a situation where he was helpless.
Wow.
And I think that says it all right there.
Mm.
But as a person, I don't have anything negative or dislike for anyone. Like I said, I genuinely like him. I just don't like that part of him.
Yeah, well, yeah, I don't think he ever gonna get over it. So
yeah, it's okay. I just wanted to let him know that when he retired, we extended nothing but good things to him in minutes. We didn't have to say a word.
That's true. That's true.
And maybe he forgot it in the midst of his arrogance and self-serving tendencies.
Mm-hmm.
But all he has to do is go back and look at the email that Andre sent him. There's nothing for us to be bitter about.
Yeah, I remember.
So, maybe one day you'll give credit where credit's due. Otherwise, you're going to be tormented. Mm. Like he is now. He's literally tormented. Every time he hears Dre's name, it's a rise in him. Blood pressure goes up. His heart rate goes up. His face flushes. His eyes narrow. Mm-hmm. His brain pushes out all intellectual statements that might flow out of his mouth, and in comes, a tirade of bitterness and negativity.
Mm-hmm. Wow. That's true, though.
So,
well, that's good stuff.
This is the first and last time I'm going to address it because it's the truth. The truth will set you free. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. And that's what he has to live in, the truth, and free himself. The truth will set you free. And live your life. Just admit what it was, and you'll find out that you'll be a better man because of it.
Yeah.
Or like I said, get Eddie Hearn to put up enough millions that he'll come out of mothballs, and if it makes sense, we might do the same. Who knows? Mm-hmm. Who knows? But I wish him nothing but the best. Never had any animosity, no hatred, no nothing towards him. Just want to know that you just can't keep going on with this. At some point, you have to really come to yourself. Give credit where credit's due. It's not difficult, and you'll find out that you'll have a load off your back. Mm-hmm. Why carry it? That stress carries over into your 50s and 60s. You'll never let it go.